I grind for the love of the game. Win or go home. No points for participation. We grind for the love of the game. Young bigs making strides. Calls for an examination. Welcome back to Projecting the Jump, everybody. What is good, Licky?
What's happening?
Just sitting over here thinking about young bigs.
Grady or
Grady Biggs, Biggie Dick. That would be a good. God, it didn't take us long to go there. We're
no,
not.
didn't. I got there quick.
We'll quickly acknowledge that Scotty Barnes just went down for a few weeks. If
Mm.
Dick is on your wire, grab Grady. We were gonna get into maybe like a Raptors deep dive, what meats on the bones, and Natron and I both looked into it, and we were like, have fun with that. Davion Mitchell, he is what he is at this point. In a 14-team league, he should probably be grabbed. In a 12-teamer, these guys are just all situational streamers. So just topical wise, do you agree with that, Licky, that especially the Raptors and even the Magic? I mean, you can grab Goga. He's fun. Goga Batase, it's fun. Franz Wagner goes down, and we're looking, his brother becomes more useful. But the Magic and the Raptors, just real quick for the people, if they wanted something recent, would you agree that they're really all streamers?
I think so. The Magic are deep. That's the one thing they have. They actually have good talent that runs all the way through 10. They have some
Yep.
young guys that are off the bench. They seem like initially they're going to be going big
Yep.
to kind of compensate for that. And I think, so if it's a lot of like low end big man stats that you could maybe snag there. But I don't think it's one of those things where player X goes down and you can grab player Y that provides 90% of the value. In this case, I think they're just going to spread it around a little bit.
Yep.
So we'll see. But it's amazing to see how competitive the Magic are and then
I
how
know.
uncompetitive the Raptors are, despite the number of injuries they have.
It's very interesting. And Paolo Banchero will be back soon, so you'll get some usage decreases for anybody that's helping out now. So keep that in mind.
Yeah.
But we are not here to talk about the rotations of the Magic and Raptors. This pod is about some examinations on some big men who I wanted to spend a little more time on. We're going to do like a little more dynasty corner than usual, meaning I kind of looked into the trajectory of some of these players, did some historical comps, looked at some usage rate stuff, a little more analytical than our usual stuff, just to get a feel for some of my favorite young players and some of Licky's favorite young players. So if we're doing young bigs that we love here at Projecting the Jump, we have to start with Evan Mobley. So this deep
Boy,
dive, that's the koala. Do you like the koala nickname? I think that's a Josh Lloyd.
I didn't even know this was a nickname. I I don't understand it.
I think it's because he kind of looks like a cute koala.
Is it just because he's Australian? Josh Lloyd?
I don't know. I don't know where the koala. It hasn't really caught
Koalas
on.
are supposed to be mean, right? And they have like a bunch of like chlamydia and stuff.
What? Okay, we'll edit that out. I didn't know about the chlamydia of koalas, but
Oh, that's a real thing. That's a
that's
real thing. It's like a
horrible.
rampant issue
That's sad.
in wild koala populations. Yeah, there's a lot of chlamydia.
That's unfortunate. Okay, chlamydia corner is now closed. So, so, so the Evan Mobley dive. I began doing this right before he was ruled out this past Sunday versus Miami with a sprained ankle. As a fantasy community, we were all collectively holding our breath. It's turned out to be yeah, I'd say high end on hopeful. He was a game time decision tonight versus the Washington Wizards Friday night, the 13th of December is when we're recording this. He did not play, but I think it's a great time to reflect. It's a great sign for his availability this season. So again, all these stats are going to be pre-Miami game when he went down with that ankle. So basically, the Evan Mobley breakout, Licky, would you say it's finally happening? This is like he has arrived. This is the player you and I have been salivating over since his rookie year.
Yeah, we've seen the defensive side of him for the last few years, but now we're seeing the offensive side, which is pretty cool.
It's beautiful. Okay, so we'll get into some basic numbers first. So his Yahoo ADP coming into the season, you had to reach for him around pick 39. His ranks so far, his totals, he is 10th. His averages, he is 18th. So Mobley did finish as the 23rd ranked player per game last year on averages, but he only played 50 games due to both knee and ankle injuries. So it feels like his true breakout campaign is going to go down as 24-25. So, Lakey, I wanted to find out what, if anything, has changed, which will help to give us an idea of what we can expect moving forward. So the usage rate stuff, I was really curious and see if anything jumped out there. Evan Mobley has a 23% usage rate with Jared Allen in the lineup so far this season, up from 20.9 in years past. So even with Jared Allen, he's seeing like that's a sizable bump, a little over 2% usage rate with Jared Allen in the lineup. In fact, actually, that number 20.9 is Mobley's exact career usage rate with Allen on or off the court. So let that one sink in, Litke. So coming into the season, the usage rate with Jared Allen or without him on the court, actually, there was no difference, which surprised me because, I feel like in DFS, we target one if the other's out and stuff like that. But the numbers didn't bear that out. So perhaps the Allen blocking Mobley's breakout was an incorrect narrative that, I don't know. I think we talked about that at times. It felt like if you cleared one out, the other could take off. Is that accurate?
Yeah, I feel like that's been a popular narrative, and I feel like this is the same discussion in the back with Cleveland in general. It's like it happens in the backcourt, is in the front court, and so. But it's neat to see this year. I mean that they're all four of them are thriving. It's interesting. I was just hanging out tonight with a Cavs fan and was talking about. We were kind of discussing their breakout, and I was just picking his brain on why he thought that this breakout was kind of happening. So it's timely that you're bringing up Mobley right now. But I mean, the Mobley thing it's really neat to see. I mean, it's interesting. His rank was as high as it was last year because you still felt a little disappointed. I think some of that was his low turnovers were helping him. This year is his shooting has really taken off, and so I feel like you see that. I don't know if you have his numbers from 3 point from beyond the arc because he's shooting it a little bit. But the one thing I really am noticing is his from the stripe. He's getting to the line a little bit more, and he's hitting him at a really, really consistent, helpful clip rather than most centers. You are a detriment in field goal percentage, and so he's the rare big that is actually helpful.
Exactly. And we did some diving on that. So to finish the usage rate piece, so Donovan Mitchell usage rate is 30.8, Darius Garland 26.5. So those are the highest usage rates on the Cavs. However, the 24-25 campaign does represent Mobley's career high usage rate, which is up over 2%, and Donovan Mitchell correlating has his lowest usage rate as a Cav, down nearly 2%.
That feels right.
Doesn't it? Yeah, exactly. And you're seeing it bear out in the box scores. So that pendulum has swung a bit. It's a very there's a lot of parity in the usage this season, which is I think bearing fruit on the court. I mean, it's really cool those guys have figured it out. And it does, and this is something I thought of before, but Kenny Atkinson, shame on the Brooklyn Nets. That was a horrible firing, and they still haven't recovered. That franchise hasn't recovered. Yeah. He's a fantastic coach. And so it's nice to see him get a proper young team again. So shout out Atkinson. So to your point, Litke, so Mobley is averaging 3 less minutes per game than
really
2 seasons ago. So his increased usage rate has been coupled by becoming an above average free throw shooter at a nearly 80% clip, which is up from 67% just 2 seasons ago. So that's 13% improvements in 2 seasons for this young big. He's also taking 1 more 3 per game at 2.3 attempts per game, going in, like you mentioned, at a nearly 35% clip. And like he was
average.
He was a 20. That's all we wanted from him. His league average. He was a 21% 3-point guy on 1.3 attempts 2 seasons ago. So the volume goes up a whole attempt, and it improves to 35 from 21. So this is fantastic stuff. So you add all that up, Mobley's finally arrived as a 2nd-round category league value that we've been projecting here. We've been projecting this jump at PTJ. And so, like I said, the Cavs and fantasy managers are finally being rewarded in the wins department. So we're going to do a little dynasty corner here. And we're going to do this on all the bigs we talk about. So I've viewed his ultimate ceiling, and let me know what you think of this, as Kevin Garnett with a lower motor. That's hard to say. A lower motor.
I was just like less explosive. I was trying to decide what the mortar meant, but
loader motor. Yeah, just like doesn't. I mean, Kevin Garnett had an all-time drive to succeed. He was just a killer. So I think one of the knocks on Mobley has been more in the fact that he doesn't have a killer instinct per se, but it could just be he has a laid back style, but his plays he's seemed more aggressive this year. So this is the bigs under 25 list for me in Dynasty. It's Wemby, it's Chet, and then it's Mobley. That's the list. I would have
Hmm.
Shingun and JJJ in the next tier.
Yeah.
Hashtag basketball puts out free dynasty rankings, so you can go check this out. They have him, Evan Mobley, at 15th on their overall dynasty rankings. So yeah, what do you think about that? How would you put Mobley in a tier with Chet um, for dynasty?
Yeah, that feels about right. I mean, he feels like he has a game that is it's interesting you brought up Kevin Garnett because he does feel like he has a similar athleticism, but he didn't necessarily have the like dynamic like drive to the basket a little bit where KG played above
Yep.
the rim a lot. He
Yep.
played really aggressively and went
Yep.
when I think of Mobley, kind of reaching his pinnacle offensively, I see him as an offensive hub as far as passing and
Yep.
shooting goes. And so it's cool to see this season his percentages kind of coming up because it seems like that's his game. He's a little bit more cerebral, a little bit more facilitating rather than
Cerebral.
just pure dominating athleticism. And so
Yes.
I think what's going to ultimately unlock his the rest of his game. Yeah, I mean, I think those dynasty rates seem pretty right. I guess it depends on how long you think Jokic is going to
All right.
last for. I probably would still put Jokic above there just because I still think his game is probably got 6 more good years in him. But splitting hairs.
The comment you made about him being cerebral was the word I was fishing for. So Kevin Garnett, pure just passion, drive. The man was he was a psychopath.
Yeah,
Mobley is not. He has a more cerebral game, more cerebral personality. So that you nailed that. Um, and it depends how you want to build in Dynasty. When we're looking at raw rankings, age is such a big factor. That list I gave was bigs under 25 years of age. But yeah, Joker clearly still going to be above Chet and Mobley on just like on a general list. But when we're when
okay.
we're when we're building into the future, okay, last thing on Mobley here, and I'm excited about this one because we haven't used this on pod maybe since the very beginning. So I looked into the basketball reference similarity scores. Remember those?
Yes, yeah.
And which is just like a good time. So these scores are based on the first 3 seasons in the league. So the highest score was Trailblazer great Maurice Lucas,
Hmm.
which is pretty interesting. Lucas wasn't obviously the same level of passer. He was a fantastic rebounder, and his defensive stats were pretty average. He was like a block a game, but he was a dominant rebounder, member of that '77 Trailblazers championship team.
Yeah.
So that was good. But I had a favorite one. This one really jumped out to me, and it was Derek Coleman.
Hmm.
So, like, can you imagine an
Huh.
emotionally stable Derek Coleman who just kept getting better into his age appropriate prime? Like,
Yeah.
dude was a monster, man. He had like all time great, like, level talent, but he just,
Right.
you couldn't find a bigger temperament discrepancy. So I just thought, like, the model is purely stats, but just real quick, I got 1992-93. This is Derek Coleman, played for the New Jersey Nets. He was the number one overall pick out of Syracuse. This was his third season. 20.7 points, 11.2 rebounds, 3.6 dimes, 1.7 blocks, 1.2 steals, 81% from the line, 46% from the field. All NBA
Jeez.
third team. That was his peak though, Licky. That was the top of the mountain for him in his third season. So what I'm
Not
proposing with
wild.
Mobley in this Dynasty Corner segment to wrap things up is I think he has all the makings of a player who's going to have longevity in the league because he is more even keel. So I would expect that we haven't seen Evan Mobley's peak. But man, yeah, the Derek Coleman comparison kind of got me because Derek Coleman was awesome. He was like a less popular Sean Kemp as far as how explosive he was as a
Hmm.
big guy. Um,
Yeah. Yeah, I feel like it's going to kind of depend on who Mobley is paired with because I don't necessarily see him as
mhm,
the he shouldn't be a one. He shouldn't be a one on the team.
right.
He needs to be a prime two. I think we see that with Anthony
Yep.
Davis too. I mean, Anthony
Yep.
Davis is obviously a higher ceiling on that, but I kind of see a similar type situation with him.
I like that prime too. That was good. So that was the Evan Mobley Dynasty Corner segment. Next up, Licky, we're going to get into Walker Kessler.
Mm-hmm. I had him on my list as well, so that's good.
Sweet. Okay, let's do a little back and forth. So Walker Kessler is interesting, I think, to both of us for this reason. He's flashing some tantalizing upside, like on a regular basis right now, but is he special? So I looked into a little bit. But when I ask you that question, Licky, what's your first reaction? Is Walker Kessler a special talent?
What does special mean to me? So it's I I think that he's going to be a great option as long as the Jazz are riding him, and I think that he is going to be an elite category specialist.
Yeah,
Do I
that's
th
it.
am I like banking on him long term? No, I kind of think I think there's a lot of 95% Walker Kesslers out there.
That's kind of what I'm wondering. And I think hearing that, and I thought you felt that way, I'm a little more in the corner that there could be some special traits that could be sticky here. So we'll just quickly do his Yahoo ADP this season was 87th. His ranks are 75th in totals, 36 in averages. He is the sixth ranked player in category leagues the past 2 weeks. He has missed 6 games this season with a hip thingy. Um, so his dynasty corner, I dove into this hashtag dynasty ranks on hashtag basketball. They have him 63rd. So I went through, started at 63. I counted all the way up to number
Hmm.
41, which was Brandon Miller in Charlotte. Until I found a player I definitely wouldn't pass up in a dynasty startup draft. Now that's the key. If you're saying you're doing a draft tomorrow and you're just trying to build the youngest, most talented roster you can, and that's how I like to do dynasty. I like to start that way. I would have
Mhm.
Kessler closer to like 40th over some of the names I was saying. So
Wow,
where is
really?
he elite? Like it's field goal percentages and blocks, as you know.
Sure.
Do you know where he ranks the season in blocks?
I'm guessing he averages three a game. I'm
Yep.
guessing that's gonna be number one.
It's number 2 behind Wemby.
Okay.
How about field goal percentage?
Well, he shoots 73%, I know, and so I'm guessing that's gonna be number one.
It's number 2, only behind Dan Gafford.
Okay.
So you're looking at a guy, and what I like is he's a career 70% field goal guy. You tack on 11 points and 11 boards so far in his age 23 season, and we might have a modern day DeAndre Jordan on our hands in Dynasty. That was kind of my comp.
Hmm.
So,
Yeah.
and what I like about this, Licky, is if he can become close to a 70% free throw percentage guy, he's been 72% on 3.6 attempts the past 2 weeks. I think he should be firmly in the top 40 of dynasty rankings at the season's end in category leagues. I love that he doesn't if he doesn't tank your free throws and he can lead the NBA in blocks and field goal percentage, he can be top 40 and never do more than 11 and 11. Would you agree with that? Just because that anchors your squad
Yeah,
in those two categories.
they're so outlier elite that it can really carry you. I mean, the interesting thing with Walker Kessler this year has been, he's been putting up big numbers with these kind of artificially low minutes, or they've been kind of pulling back the reins on him, even though he's been putting up great stats. I mean, the last 2 seasons have both been at 23 minutes per night. This year he's averaging 29 minutes, and so it's a pretty big jump, and some of that is due to that kind of gruesomely wild Taylor Hendricks injury, but he's been a little bit of the beneficiary of that, and he's certainly been you know running with it.
Quick question on season long. Um, Utah scares me.
Oh,
I
I'm doing a Utah deep dive here later, so yeah, just
we will save the meat on the bones. So heads up if you're listening to this, look for another drop too. We're gonna go ahead and do 2 drops tonight, so we can split that up for y'all to have a couple shots at the PTJ. Either if you're YouTube or audio, you'll have 2 drops. So that finishes up Walker Kessler. But yeah, I wanted to look at him because I'm like, is is he replacement level or are we overlooking him because he is a tall white dude with a buzz cut who plays in Utah? And I kind of came leaning towards that. That I think maybe he's easy to overlook. It's hard to trust the team he plays for as far as what to expect. We saw them shut down Laurie Markkinen. I don't like talking about shutdowns. You would think Walker Kessler would be safe. I think they can lose games with him, anchoring the middle. But I think it does cloud the perception of how good he can be and make it a little more mysterious that he plays in Utah, with this weird team.
yeah, I think he's safe the rest of the year for sure.
Okay. All right, Licky, so these are going to be some quicker hitters. And I kind of want to get your take on both of these guys. Didn't do as deep a dives. I just wanted to outline a couple rookie centers. Let's start with Pelican center Yves Missi, uh,
Hmm.
21st pick out of Baylor, age 20. So over 6 games in December, Missi is putting up 12.7 points, 10.7 boards, 1.2 blocks, half a steal, and two total dimes over 6 games in 29 minutes. So this guy has no vision for
Oh my gosh.
for finding the cutters. So clearly the Pels have been decimated by injuries this season, but still his year one production has been a surprise to me. Have you been surprised?
Yeah, I mean, we talked about him on our Pelicans deep dive, and we thought maybe that the ideal comp would be Derek Lively, and
Mhm.
it seems like it's been fairly accurate. I mean, the blocks haven't been quite as elite as Lively, but his rim running. I mean, I was watching the game last night against the Kings, and it seemed like just even throughout the season, his aggressiveness running vertically from the free throw line down has really stepped up. He's felt a lot more confident doing that, and I think there was one play in particular where Misi kind of caught it at the free throw line, took one dribble and drove to the rim, and Malik Monk was there, and Malik Monk just got out of the
Wow.
way. Like it is, and even the Kings announcers
Yep.
are like, "Well, that was a business decision," and just it was like pretty. I was like, "Wow, that's a rookie. That he looked really good."
Yeah. Yeah, it's with big guys like this, they can be flash. It can be flash in the pan situational. So you really do got to watch the tape and watch the games to get a feel for, what kind of players they are. I would say Lively is definitely a better passer, but that's not hard so far in Misi's young career. But yeah, it's been nice to just that draft has been panned, and so to get a guy picked in the low 20s producing for your fantasy team in year one, that's a win. That's cool. We'll take it.
Yeah, and the opportunity is almost certainly going to continue to
Mhm.
be there for the rest of the season. So I think what you're seeing now is both real, and you would assume we'll see what exactly happens with the Pelicans,
Yeah.
but is only potentially going to get a little bit better as the season goes on. So if I think he's without a doubt is certainly a season long hold.
Yes. Very clearly season long hold. Good point. Still kind of getting a feel as far as where he's at in Dynasty, but he's right up there with the second overall pick as far as the tiers of big guys, and that's going to be
Hmm.
Alex Sarr, uh,
Mm.
second pick out of France, age 19 season. I know you've been, I would say, critical at times of Sarr, and it's hard not to be. What an odd statistical profile for a big Licky. So he
Yeah,
can't shoot.
but
He can't shoot
he shoots a
38%,
lot.
but he shoots a lot. 38% field goals, 66% free throw percentage. But he can stroke the three. He's made two or more threes in about 25% of his games, and he's eighth in the NBA in blocks at 1.9 per contest. So I'm intrigued. Uh, but
Yeah.
depending on the depth of your league, he hasn't been a player you've always wanted to hold or need to hold. So, what do we think about Alex Sarr? I mean, been intriguing. At times on the court, he's looked like he doesn't know what to do with himself situationally. But you have any observations for the people, or what's your first thought when I say Alex Sarr and I'm putting him there with Yves Missi? I mean, do you still feel like the outline of the player is clearly a tier above a guy like Missi, or is it hard to know at this point?
I think on this particular season, I feel significantly more comfortable with Misi than I
Yeah.
do with Sar. I still feel the same way with Sar as when the last time we talked about him, where I think that he is a kind of boom or bust late, midweek, late week pickup, rather than a season long hold in my mind,
Mhm.
just because of that volatility when it comes to all this production. I mean, the blocks are there. And so like, if you really need the blocks, that has been really consistent. But the offensive and rebounding numbers have just been so up and down that I feel a little uncomfortable having him as just on my team 365.
Yeah.
But certainly as a stream, I think he's an elite streamer, and I think he should and will be rostered the like 75, 80% of the time.
Yeah, in most situations, he'll probably need to be rostered by somebody in a 12-team league.
Yeah.
We both in our league of record have cut him at times, and he is on the waiver wire. I'd say our league is of moderate size. It's 12 teams. We added a bench spot this year, but it doesn't start two centers; starts one center. So yeah, in a league that's a little deeper, I'm sure he has a season long hold, but he can get annoying. So we haven't even talked about Donovan Klingen, Kling Kong,
Clink Kong.
who we've covered a bit. But let me ask you this, Licky, real quick one. Rank, and this is a dynasty corner question. Go ahead and rank Donovan Klingen, Alex Sarr, and Yves Misi as far as long-term potential in a dynasty category league.
I think I would go Donovan Clingan by a significant by a grade or two above everybody else. I think he's in his own draft, his own class. Him, maybe Castle, maybe are kind of in that first grade when it comes to this entire rookie class. And then I think you take a step down. And so
Yeah.
I think we'll see Klingon. I have noticed just on my own betting habits that when it comes to the Blazers, if Klingon is playing, betting on the Blazers against the spread is pretty good.
Mm.
If Klingon is sitting, then you bet against the Blazers. I mean, it's kind of wild for a rookie big man that comes off the bench, but it kind of has been true.
Yeah, what was that game? And we've been texting, and I was on Donovan. Such a great point about Klingon and the spread on the Blazers. Um, he so Donovan Klingon, I was doing his points, assists, rebounds for a while, and it was just smashing on DraftKings. They were just a little
Oh
bit behind.
yeah.
It was just
Against the
smashing.
Suns. It was against the
Yeah.
Suns. This is the game you're talking about.
And he had a game where his PRA line was 15-5, and he beat it in just rebounds and did not score.
He had 0 points in the
And
game.
19 rebounds. And I was just like, oh, this is fascinating.
Yeah, you kept telling me these, and you're like, hey, have you seen this like over under for him? And I was like, what the like? And you hit like 3 games in a row,
Oh,
and then he's been injured for the last
yeah,
10 games. So
exactly.
hopefully DraftKings didn't like wake up in that last 10 game stretch.
In general, I love looking for those little inconsistencies, and you'll find them in markets like Portland, where like the bettors aren't paying attention. There's just not as much action, just not as interesting. So you can find some of these little nuggets. But yeah, that was my favorite of the season so far.
Yeah, that's
Um,
amazing.
do you have any young bigs you wanted to touch on? Do you want to toss their name into the ring here?
Um, I feel like you kind of hit on most of the guys as far as dynasty stuff that I would be kind of curious about that are interesting as far as like unknown commodities.
Okay. Yep. So we wanted to do something a little different. We're hit you with some deep to moderate dives on young bigs. Uh, we are going to flip over to the other side of our content today. We're going to go ahead and end the feed here so we can have 2 shots at the apple. So, as you know, Projecting the Jump is a fantasy podcast for the people. Please do follow us on YouTube, wherever you get your podcasts, Apple, Spotify, and the likes. You can follow me on Twitter at Quano Physics. You can follow Projecting the Jump on Twitter as well. And that'll do it for the bigs that we're covering today. I am Flying J, and this is Natron Clean.
Later.
Later.